Hey everyone, welcome to Broadband Deployment News. NextLink has announced that they're going to be delivering 5G broadband using CBRS spectrum to subscribers in 11 states. Be right back. Hey, thanks for joining me. Rick Husey here with Broadband Deployment News. So as I mentioned, NextLink, here's a story here I just want to read through because it's talking about CBRS spectrum, which I'll go into a little more detail here, but interesting news. So a lot of this kind of was already known because NextLink was one of the biggest winners in RDOF. They also had quite a few wins in CAF2 in that auction that preceded RDOF. And the way that they're doing it is through fixed wireless and a mixture of fixed wireless and fiber. And it sounds like maybe, they're just expanding. Some of this is related to CAF2 and some of it's related to what they're going to be doing through RDOF. And I think just in general, expanding where they can broadband. So they are quickly trying to cover rural areas, which is good. That's something that we want, right? So they may not be waiting on the BEAD program or other things. They're trying to get as much covered now as they can with the funds that they've won, as well as probably just their own investment in other areas. So you see here, NextLink Internet and Tirana announced a partnership to bring gigabit broadband service to communities in rural areas in 11 states. And you see here it's Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Kansas, Louisiana, Minnesota, Nebraska, Oklahoma, South Dakota, Texas, and Wisconsin. And some of these states were ones that they just recently were announced where they had received RDOF money, or they will be receiving RDOF money. They were one of the top winners in RDOF, I think some $430 or so million that they're being awarded through RDOF. And again, that's the Rural Digital Opportunity Fund. That was a reverse auction that the FCC did most recently back in 2020 or so. And then prior to that, there was the Connect America Fund, CAF2, the second phase of that, where they won quite a bit of money, and they are currently delivering on that. So they are moving very quickly. They expect to expand service to hundreds of rural counties over the next several years, covering over 250,000 households, according to a press release. Part of this ties back to the CBRS licenses NextLink picked up at auction in 2020. NextLink bid $28.4 million for 1,072 priority access licenses, or PALs. Now, CBRS, that's Citizen Broadband Radio Service, that's a spectrum that was available, mid-band spectrum that is being provided both on a licensed basis and on an unlicensed basis. So on a licensed basis, this does qualify as a reliable broadband service under BEAD. So anything that they roll out for RDOF using these PAL licenses will be considered reliable broadband. Therefore, that is not an area that you can overbuild or get funds to overbuild through RDOF. So that's an important note there. But CBRS also does offer unlicensed spectrum in these same bands. So there's a pretty cool sharing methodology that goes on with CBRS for those that are licensed, those that are incumbents like the Navy, and then those that have licensed spectrum like NextLink here. And then anybody could get unlicensed spectrum and use that as long as the priority licenses have first access to that. At the end of this, I'll share a link to a video that I did on a Tech Tuesday about CBRS spectrum and explained all about how the sharing of those licenses works. That you might find of interest. So I will share that at the end here. So look for that in the comments section. I'll pin a comment with that link. So Tirana also offers 5 gigahertz versions of its platform, but NextLink's first choice is to use the 3.5 gigahertz CBRS spectrum, where it has these PAL licenses, according to Claude Aiken, Chief Strategy Officer and Chief Legal Officer at NextLink. So Claude Aiken used to be the head of the WISPA, Wireless Internet Service Provider Association. So not long ago, he took this position at NextLink. So he's obviously very experienced in the wireless area. NextLink is trying to do a couple of things with this platform, he said. One is to create competition in areas traditionally served by just one provider, which could be a cable company or another fiber provider. So these would be areas, I would imagine, where they're not using CAF2 funds. They're not going to be using RDOF funds, because if there's already a cable provider there and a fiber provider, then most likely they are able to provide, certainly in the fiber, although I was talking to somebody today who said he's got fiber down in middle Georgia and he's only getting like 20 or 10 meg down. And I'm like, how's that possible? But that's the case, the small little rural telephone company where he is. But in general, if there's a fiber provider there, they're going to be well over the 100 by 20 requirement, and certainly cable can do that as well. DOCSIS, even DOCSIS 3.0 can do that. So so it looks to me like they're talking about overbuilding, so to speak. So they'll use these licenses and spectrum in these particular areas to provide a second option for people that already have fiber or cable. So they can maybe come in there with a lower price and still provide really fast internet through this wireless 5G connection. Another is stepping up. So the first thing is that. Another is stepping up and exceeding its Connect America Fund or CAF 2 obligations. NextLink's receiving $280 million from the FCC on CAF 2 to deploy 100 by 20 broadband in more than 100,000 locations across 6 states under the FCC's CAF 2 Phase 2 program. It's required to reach 40% of its deployment by the end of this year, but NextLink announced in August that it's already more than 50% completed with its obligation, with no signs of slowing down. So they've already kind of met that threshold. On top of that, it's now deploying equipment that can do up to 500 meg in those areas where it's mandated to deliver 100 meg. So they're over delivering, and they've already reached their commitment level and past that, and they're over delivering on the speed. NextLink is using Tarana's G1 platform, which promises to deliver gigabit services at impressive distances and in non-line of sight paths. So that's important. NextLink plans on using a combination of fiber and gigabit fixed wireless to meet its Rural Digital Opportunity Fund or RDOF obligations. And Tarana is uniquely positioned to help NextLink deliver on all its promises, the company said. NextLink also said its initiative is leveraging a new set of G1 capabilities from Tarana, which is scheduled a product launch event for September 27th, so right about now. In a lot of these rural areas that NextLink is targeting, residents have few, if any, choices when it comes to high-speed internet, so it's a welcome change. So those would obviously be the areas that are being funded by the federal government where they maybe have no internet except maybe dial-up or satellite. We're seeing performance significant enough that we feel comfortable offering these 500 meg packages to a broad area of coverage, he said. It's seeing this type of performance up to 9 miles from the tower, which is a significant improvement over other types of solutions that's deployed in the past, according to Aiken. Previously, NextLink said it was going to offer 100 by 20 using Nokia CBRS equipment. Aiken clarified that NextLink is augmenting, not replacing the Nokia gear. We continue to operate our private LTE 5G CBRS footprint with fixed wireless and IoT powered by Nokia and are working with Tarana for its next-gen fixed wireless platform, he said. Nokia and Tarana are 2 of its biggest partners so far. The CBRS auction offered a chance for smaller and more rural-oriented companies like NextLink to participate in auction and get spectrum licenses based on smaller county-sized geographic areas. Other auctions involved partial economic areas, or PEAs, that are more appealing to big wireless carriers interested in targeting high-density urban areas. So CBRS is a really good spectrum for these rural areas because of the fact that, again, these smaller operators can get these licenses. It's less expensive. They can get smaller areas rather than having to commit to a big area. They can even if I remember, if they got an area where even that was too big for them, they could sub-license that to somebody else. So it was very attractive for that. It's good spectrum. It's got the sharing system in place. And again, even for people that want to do unlicensed spectrum, you can't, again, that's not qualified as reliable broadband service. So you'd have the threat of somebody getting funding and being able to overbuild you, but you can do unlicensed and have no cost for the spectrum in that case. I think you're seeing CBRS being most quietly and widely deployed in the fixed wireless ecosystem. It's fantastic band conceptually because of the use it or share it characteristics. It's a step forward in spectral efficiencies, especially as policymakers are talking about spectrum crunches in the future and the need to do more sharing. And that's a good point. So again, the way that the sharing works with this is really attractive because you've got incumbent users like the Navy that can use CBRS spectrum, but there's a sharing system in place that automatically will tell operators that have either the priority licenses or those that have unlicensed spectrum that they need to back off because somebody's using that, the incumbent Navy is using that. So that's part of that that's built into that. And again, with the spectrum crunch, lots of spectrum needed. The FCC is trying to make more available on an ongoing basis, but the sharing allows more people to use this for more different kinds of things. It says we have a model here that actually works and that we're deploying in a pretty widespread way across multiple states. So again, I will go ahead and share a link to that CBRS broadcast that I did on Tech Tuesday some time ago, but I think it covers it at a good level of being able to understand what CBRS is, how the sharing system works, what these different types of licenses are, the incumbents, the PALs, and then the wide open west of the unlicensed spectrum, and how that all works together. So you might find that of interest. So if this was interest, if you would, please give me a thumbs up on the video. Make sure you subscribe. Click the subscribe button. Click the little notification bell to be notified when I'm live. If we can help you in any way with any broadband services, whether that be anything from device activation to diagnostics to 24/7 tech support for your end users, or even just after-hour support, DDoS protection, we've got a host of services. You can check it out on our website at zcorum.com. Send us an email or send us a contact through that website. We'll be happy to talk with you. You got our phone number there as well. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you next time for Broadband Deployment News. Take care. Bye-bye.